You don't decide to be an artist. Either you are born an artist or you are not an artist at all. Duty is to paint. If I do not fulfill this duty, I don't deserve to be called a painter. In everyday's life, we can see beautiful things, we can see not so beautiful things. And when you think about those things, you also think why they are so, how far they go, and where you can reach that kind of statement that would define all this. That's what I am trying to find out through my work.
We live in the space, and we live in the moment of time that defines us. But where does a moment begin in time, and where does it end? For the artist, whose life is preoccupied with the arrangement of space in time, the moment that defines creation extends both beyond the horizon rising ahead and the one falling behind. In 1968, Anton Cetin arrived in Toronto after spending 2 years in Paris. In Paris, he had tried to bridge the creative gaps in time and space, gaps that he had lost beneath the shadow which had driven him from his home in Zagreb. In Toronto, Cetin turned inward, as he had done since childhood, to conceive the image that would define him and survive him.
A very poignant one, I think, in many ways, is one called We Wonder, that seems to indicate the sense of uncertainty of two people, himself and his wife, arriving on the North American continent and not knowing the language or not knowing it very well, determined to make something of this.
What emerged was Lovers in Space. A world where the only ritual for the disenfranchised was the ritual of love, of spreading seeds. Seeds that might grow into something, or into someone who would live forever.
Eve is a very important part of my work. That's where I not only find myself at home, but it's something that gives me so much to explore, to go beyond so many things in a number of dimensions that I feel that the world exists.
In Satine's symbolic lexicon, Eve dominates. She defines the space he arranges. She defines his creative moments. And she has been with him, though not always known to him, on every path he has ever taken. In 1959, Satine had painted Girl and a Dove, the girl who would become his Eve, the bird that would become his flower bird. Satine was then enrolled in Zagreb School of Applied Arts. From there, he would advance to the Academy of Fine Arts. Satine supported himself through school by working as an illustrator. He developed the portfolio of a master draftsman. This steady work brought him a kind of freedom, but it was not the kind of freedom he was seeking, the kind that would let him give birth to his defining image. But years ago, in Zagreb, the symbols were just beginning to take shape.
I
have the most vivid memories of our rendezvous at Café Dubrovnik. We were listening to the classical music, which was usually played there, having coffee and occasionally some drink. Anton would have often brought with him a sketchbook, and he was drawing various sketches of musicians and guests seated at the nearby tables. Those sketches are our dearest memories.
In 1964, Satine graduated from the Academy of Fine Arts and went into the army. Military service was mandatory. But this involuntary displacement of the urge to give life by a requirement to give death overwhelmed Satine. He revolted. His work exploded into a series of ominous birds. Birds that were harbingers of evil, unwelcome on the horizon. They augured continued oppression. Satine had long been prepared to leave his home. As a child in Bojana, he had often built distant places, out of the simple materials at hand. Once it was an entire city out of earth. In youth, where past and future exist simultaneously, the child was discovering how it felt to be the creator. But Satine also discovered in childhood that where there is light, there is shadow. In 1966, the path led from Zagreb to Paris. Paris had long held an attraction for Satine. Like generations of artists who had come to this crucible of art before him, Satine arrived fully anticipating he would find his muse. But the reality was the crucible had grown cold. Paris was static, inbred, happy to copy. His muse proved to be elusive.
He was, in some ways, trying to deal with the types of contradiction that exist, I guess, within all of us, between a sense of wholeness, a sense of unity, and a sense of being at ease with themselves, to the fact that all of us, in one way or another, and at one time or another, are affected by doubts, disillusionment, uncertainties, and so on.
The energy of Eve was already with him and would fully emerge in his adoptive homeland of Canada.
I was involved in a very big accident, and I was actually on the brink of death, meeting death, and that changed all sorts of things in my life. I suddenly felt that I am a different person in many ways. what I felt was that the physical sort of things in life were of a lesser importance. The other aspect of life, which was leading to a kind of spiritual qualities in life, was becoming more and more important.
In a foreign land, in a rehearsal for death, Satine found his muse. The shadow was lifted by Eve. When she emerged, Eve was accompanied by a syncretistic flower bird. The flower, in essence symbolic of the struggle from death towards life. In form, the image of the center, the human soul. The bird, like an angel, the symbol of thought in action, rising and falling like the soul.
My image of Eve encompasses all the Eves from the beginning of time. I am fighting against the tragedy of civilization. I have chosen a woman as the central image because I see the feminine spirit as a hope for the future.
Satine has become Eve to his Eve. In the more than 20 years since passing through death's arms, he has relentlessly pursued her, conceived her, and borne her into the world hundreds of times, only to see her die as often. An unfinished work of art is a white hole. It swallows up time and space. It draws the artist in, and it doesn't release him until the pieces of past and future that define the moment are brought to light for anyone who will look.
One of the things that drew me to Anton and his work in the first place was, in a sense, he'd always worked outside of the official system, the public gallery system, and even the commercial gallery system here, that in a sense he'd done it on his own. I have a great deal of admiration for Anton for the fact that he now has an international reputation, which he has done himself and that nobody else has done for him.
Where does a moment begin? Where does it end? Anton Satine will know when he again discovers his Eve. When he again brings her into this time and space with brush, knife, pigment, and water. The tools of birth.